How's it going, guys? How's life as number one Netflix directors?
Pretty sweet
It
this
just
weekend.
all people gathered outside my house, just clapping. No, it's been great. It's
No pitchforks this time.
yeah, no pitchforks. It's
That's a
shifted.
good. That's a good. That's a good
The
sign.
narrative shifted. No, it's been great. Yeah, it's great. We're happy people are getting to watch it. That's the big thing.
Yeah. So the premise of it is very interesting. It kind of feels antithetical to a horror movie. You have someone who's been pretty much paralyzed for the majority of the movie, I would say. Do you feel like the inherent constraints of having your main character kind of confined to her body, allowed for more creativity, or did you find it a bit difficult to work with?
I believe more creativity.
Mm.
It's been interesting this process because our writers, TJ Simfeld, David White, were good friends and are incredibly talented. We pitched the concept to them. We just had a screening the other day, and it was interesting them recalling the moment that we told them this is what we wanted to do, and this is what the constraints were, which were it couldn't be nonlinear. The story had to be unfold largely in real time. We didn't want to live in voiceover, and that was largely it. And it was funny to hear one of them say, we got off the phone and I was like, well, we're not going to do that, and the other one was like, oh yes, we are. So I think they came back to us, and what they built was a brilliant way to explore the idea that you have one character who's going to become immobile and the other one has to carry the water narratively for so much of it. And I think that's, to your point, I think that's ultimately why it works, is because Richard is so interesting to watch. He's not an automaton. He's not a flawless character. He's good at what he does, but not as good as he thinks.
Mhm.
And because of those qualities, he's fun to watch, even though you are rooting against him, right? And I think that's the trick. It's making sure that he's engaging, even if you despise him, because for a large portion of the film, she's unable to communicate in any way other than with her eyes.
Mhm.
So I think it made for a more interesting set of characters because they had to be by the.
It also, I mean, it also the way we had planned to shoot it, it also we wanted to live in those moments,
Mhm.
just be with her and live in those moments. So I think, it allowed for the concept and then the characters that TJ and David wrote allowed for us to really do that. And luckily, our the producing team behind this, Anna Bazizi, Sam Raimi, Alex Lipovici, the Hammerstone, Capstone, and Susan Sarah Sarandos, they all kind of like got that. And they
Mhm.
were like, yes, this. So, big ups to them for because
Supporting it.
supporting that vision of it. Because like you said, it's quite different than your normal thriller in that way.
And you guys, I've read some other interviews that you did where you talk about wanting it to unfold linearly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, linearly. Not an easy word.
It's a tongue twister.
Uh-huh.
And kind of some of the difficulties, like dealing with the light and dealing with other things, that come with wanting it to look like it's unfolding in real time, but obviously not practically shooting it in real time. So what were some of the positives that have kind of come out of shooting it like that were maybe unexpected?
I think the biggest one that pops into my head is the idea we tried to shoot it as much in order as we could. There's things that we weren't able to do, but for a lot of large portion of the production we actually did. And I think that really helped um Kelsey and Finn with their characters and kind of where they were at because for the most part we were trying to shoot it that way. So, you know, the end of the movie we shot at the last day of shooting. So she had gone through all the things that she goes through in the movie. She had gone through that. So I think that helped in the performance aspect for both of them to just have experienced that. The first day, the cliff scene, that was the first day. So, to have that and be able to just kind of like start from one place, go through this whole harrowing journey, and then come out at the end and kind of shoot it as much as we could in order, um, helped performance wise. Just
Mhm.
where they were.
And speaking of performances, it's essentially a two-hander between Finn and Kelsey. So what made you decide on these actors? And I've seen a lot of chatter online is that like this is Finn essentially auditioning for American Psycho because it is a very much Patrick Bateman character. So I was curious if that comparison ever came to your minds, or what about it made you pick these two actors?
That's so interesting. I'll talk Kelsey, and maybe Adam can talk Finn. For Kelsey, I think this process she was a name that was initially mentioned to us, and I think she was unavailable. I think ultimately she became available again. We met with her, and the only thing I was familiar with prior to meeting with her was her work in Wind River, and then also her work in, I think it was season 4, the Kansas City season of Fargo. But I didn't recognize her from Fargo. So I was like, oh wait, that was her. And so I went back and watched it again. And it's what I mean, in order to play in a Coen-esque caper comedy, that level of heightened performance, and then to do that scene in Wind River. If anyone has seen Wind River, the opening sequence and then the flashback, it is tough stuff. It's tough to watch. It's very physical. It's a tough watch. And to do those two different things, that's an actor. That's someone who has range. So then we met with her, and Sam was joined us for that initial virtual meeting. It was on Super Bowl Sunday, I remember. And Sam is a huge Yellowstone fan, and so he was just as giddy to meet her as she was to meet him. And then I think over the course of that conversation, the thing that we took away from her, outside of the acting ability, which he had seen before, she's so intuitive, super bright. I don't know. I think the way that she just kind of processes information, and the way that she processed the conversation we were having, she would just kind of take her time and just be very thoughtful. And we were like, this feels like Iris. This just feels like what we're looking for. And then the other thing that was interesting is I had always pictured someone with kind of shorter hair in the course of the story, the fiction of the story. Just the thought was like, over this last year, she just wants no fuss, no muss. She just wants to be able to get out of the house. And so when we saw her and her hair was that length, it was just like, God, that's exactly the kind of hair length we were thinking. So it all just, when we first met and sat down, it all just clicked. And I think what she brought to the role, which everyone was able to see, was she just threw herself into it, and she trusted us, and she was able to convey so much with with the restraints that were placed upon her. And that's, thinking back, I'm always amazed that on the set, she was probably thinking, I don't know if I'm doing enough here. Are you getting anything from me? And watching it's there, but it is, she did have to place an immense amount of trust in Adam and I, and we're grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as it relates to Finn, we weren't really that familiar with Finn's work. We never really watched American Horror Story. We come to find out that he is a star all over the world. When we were shooting in Bulgaria, people were very excited when we were out and about. And
every time we left the house, he was recognized. These dark bars in the middle of Bulgaria.
But so for Brian and I, the casting process is very much just go with your gut. What feels like what Brian was saying with Kelsey, it just felt like right. And it was the same thing with Finn. I mean, we met with him virtually again, and we had saw his reel, and he had played the husband of Renee Zellweger's character, Judy. I think it was Judy. I forgot what movie it was. Judy Garland was she playing? And he plays the husband with her, and we're like, wow, this guy is charming and this and that. And then we find out that he's played these like horror characters before, and we're like, we need somebody who can just seamlessly jump between personas. And that was Finn, and he is a remarkable actor. It was very fun to kind of watch them on set. Two very different processes, and Finn was always mining the script, looking for that extra little bit, and Kelsey's very kind of like she's immediately empathetic, and she's just embodies the character, and then is able to kind of like step out of it after a really brutal scene or whatever, and just be like cheery herself. And it's amazing to watch that, and it's fun. It was fun and rewarding for us to just be able to let them go do their thing and bounce off each other. And they were both so giving. I'll tell you this: there's a lot of times where we're just shooting on her, and a lot of times normally an actor would be like, oh, okay, I'll just put a stand in here for the eye line. But Finn was like, I need to be here right for her off camera, and Kelsey was like, I need to be right here for Finn when he's on camera and I'm off camera. So there was very much that kind of family, kind of like help each other out vibe on set, and I think that just oozes through the screen. So it was great. They're great.
Yeah, they really are. I want to tread a little into spoiler territory if you guys don't mind, since it's been out
Put a
in the
little thing
world
on it.
for
Spoilers.
yeah.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yeah,
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
So I was curious. I saw online that there's been a lot of fans asking you questions that they had, like unanswered questions. Do you feel like there have been any unanswered questions, or did like because I watched it and I came away with it feeling like nice loose ends tied up. So what kind of questions have you guys been asked?
I personally have not been online to
I
see what
think
the questions are, so I don't. If you want to relay them, we're happy
I
to.
think the biggest questions I've seen are in relation to Richard's character
Mm,
and what was true and what's not. And I always like to say that's the fun of it for me because you don't know if what persona is which, if he's telling the truth ever. And
yeah.
that for us, at least for me, that was the fun of it because I agree. I think Iris's storyline is as far as I'm concerned is tied up. I don't think there's any loose ends there. I think there's a ton of loose ends with Richard's character because that's his character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we're always the ones like it's more fun to kind of fill in some of that stuff. If you give everybody every answer to every question, it's not really left open to interpretation a little bit. And some of that stuff I think deserves to be left open to interpretation, starts a conversation.
I
The one
definitely.
thing I've heard with respect to Iris, which I thought was interesting, was people saying, "Oh, that final moment when
Hmm.
she walks off and that look she gives." They've had theories as to what that means, what's in store for her after the credits roll, and that's always been fun to hear. Um, we love stuff like that. To your point, we too feel that things kind of tied up pretty nicely, but it's so cool that people care enough to leave the film and go out into the world and
I want
post
to discuss it more.
and want to discuss it. That's the sort of film that we enjoy making, really watching. First off, so if we have any of that, then mission accomplished. It means that it's not just a piece of disposable entertainment, and that they are curious about who these people are, after the credits have rolled. That's awesome if that's happened.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my question that I have
Please,
that
please.
I was left with.
Uh-huh.
So the movie is essentially when we meet Iris, she's about to commit suicide, and then obviously she is now fighting for her life. And I was curious when you feel like Iris switches from survival, like this, like wanting to survive this particular harrowing experience with Richard, and then when we see her at the end, the genuine desire to continue with life and to continue on. Like, what is that moment that you feel like it's a perspective change for her?
That's a question we asked Kelsey on the first time we met her.
Oh.
And not trying to catch her with anything, but it was really more of a question like, when do you think that would happen? And she had and I think what we all came up with was that it wasn't one specific moment, because survival is instinctual, right?
Mhm.
But the one thing we talked about was, over the course of the film, we need to switch from "I want to survive" to "I want to live."
Mhm.
And I don't know, Adam, you tell me if you feel different. I don't think we ever pinpointed a particular moment.
I don't think there is one moment in my mind. I don't think there
Yeah,
is one
right.
specific moment where she goes, "Oh, now I want to." I think it's the culmination of all these beats and moments and things that gives her a different perspective. Like the whole thing for us was like, at the end of the day, it's not about getting over the death of her son. She'll never get over the death
Mhm.
of her son. It's about being willing to take another step into another day and just being able to go, I'm still going to tackle this. I'm not giving up. My life's worth living,
Mhm.
and it may be tough and it's going to be tough. But I'm willing to just take another step. And that's kind of the whole point in our minds of where she ends up. So yeah, I don't think there's one specific
Certainly,
moment,
in
culmination of
hindsight,
many moments. Yeah.
again, spoilery, when they're on shore before they go
Mhm.
out. In hindsight, when that conversation that they have, to me, that's probably the impetus for why she has that emotive kind of cry out moment, because she realizes, oh wait, and at that point she's the most. It's like it might be too late. So I
Mhm.
think, in my mind, I think that's what she's doing. That's what that is. That is the first. That's this vocal cry for help, but it's also the frustration of realizing it's too late now, and now I am in a place that I am in that place, and it's probably too late to do anything about it. I've missed all my chances.
Yeah.
So it's more of a thing that happens when she thinks about it and goes, oh wait, wanted, ah, okay, before you
Yeah.
slip.
And speaking of the ending, you guys, the last audio that you hear is a cover of You Don't Own Me, which I really love. But it's the only song in the film, right? That we
Only
hear.
needle drop, only real needle drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of curious why you picked that song, how you came to the cover of it as well, and why you wanted that to be like the lasting impression that you left the audience with.
Couple of reasons. We wanted to send people off. It's for people that really get invested in these sorts of films, suspense films like this. You'll be tense for 90 minutes,
Hmm.
right? I think appropriately. I mean, that's what we were going for, and we're so pleased that it's working that way. But we love the tradition of films. The first time we remember seeing it was in Blood Simple, where you leave a film that is so tense and so dark, and then they hit you with this pop, kind of these 50s pop song to send you home. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? And it just sends you off to remind you you just watched a movie and that we're not here to torment you or to make you feel any particular sort of way. We this is a film. We're sending you home or wherever you are when you watched it, off to think like, okay, that was entertainment. I was entertained. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. And then Adam can talk about why we chose that version of it.
It actually came as a suggestion from our editor, Josh Ethier's wife,
Mhm.
Michaela. We were testing out lots of different songs, and it was just again, it's just gut. As us as filmmakers, we just use our gut a lot of time and instinct, and it just putting different things in there, and everything was like, it's 80%. It's just not it yet. And then she was like, oh, I was listening to this song. And it's a cool cover. It's a really unique cover. It's kind of a
Hmm.
punky, it's got a little bit of a punky vibe to it, which we think would be something that Iris would listen to. That's more of her vibe. So we threw it in there and we all sat back and went, yes, that's it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think
That's
initially we found the original version,
Hmm.
but to Adam's point, I think now we've seen a lot of films and films we love that kind of do again the Blood Simple. They dropped to like the
Hmm.
50s or 60s version, and we thought Iris wouldn't listen to that version,
Yeah.
so we picked the version she would listen to. So I don't know, it's just something about it that just it was kind of
just clicked.
it's a
It just
haunting
felt,
song. The
yeah,
words of
it's
the song
haunting
are
and
love.
it clicked.
You know,
Thematically, it somewhat works. It's not 100%, but
it's
the
not so
vibe.
literal. It's not so literal that it's about Richard. You know, You Don't Own Me is not just about Richard. It's, Richard is kind of a
About her
manifestation
grief.
of
More
his
for me,
grief.
it's more about her grief.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The
and
grief
that's what
doesn't know. The
he
grief doesn't know it's me,
represents
not
that.
Richard.
Yeah, he represents that, and so that's what more than anything. It's not so literal.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just love the song too. I put it on every now and again in the car. I just listen to the original version. I'm like, when this came out at that time, this must. I mean, it's pretty ahead of its time. Pretty remarkable.
Hugely ahead of its time too, because I believe she's gay, so it's even more
Oh,
of
really?
like a
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
massive, yeah.
mm.
It's I love
Wow.
that song, so that I was thrilled when that came on when the credits started playing.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
beautiful song.
so you guys talked about how Iris's story is wrapped up, but a lot of the questions are about Richard. Do you see a world of a prequel of Richard?
I don't know
Oh,
about a
that's interesting.
prequel. I mean, I don't
That's
know.
interesting.
We've
I hadn't
tossed
thought of
around
that.
ideas with the writers about how this story could continue that would make
Hmm.
sense. Again, we're all about concept and then finding a character that fits that. So
Hmm.
it's for us, it's like reverse engineering it in a way where it's like it's up. We know what the character is now.
Hmm.
What's the character's journey, and then what concept or conceit can you put that new character in that would make sense,
Hmm.
and not just be eye-rollingly like, oh my God, money grab, you know what I mean? Like it like that,
No interest.
there's no reason to do that. So it's like how would you continue her character and what other journey does she need to go on and what does that look like?
Is that something that people have posed? The Richard prequel? I'm just curious. I hadn't seen it.
No, that's just the question that I had because
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all of the questions about like Richard being like the main thing that it seems like that Adam was talking about, people
Mhm.
asking like what's the truth about him, what actually happened. It would be interesting if his prequel was just entirely different than anything that he said
Yeah,
in this
that's
one.
interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because you don't
Well,
know. I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing. That's the
Right.
fun of that character is it could be all true, or it could be none of it could be true. You just don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
hmm. Oh, interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
my last question for you guys, you're co-directors and you have a long time friendship going back to middle school, right?
Elementary.
Yeah.
Elementary school and the middle.
Elementary.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you balance the role and responsibility of being directors, and are there specific parts of the job that you each kind of gravitate toward naturally?
No, we're just kind of like one in the same brain. We've been doing it for so long that it's like second nature. We've always tried to like, we've had producers on other projects being like, how does this work? And then they get on set and they go, oh, okay, I see. And it's like, I don't know, it's this unwritten thing. It's like Ryan will have be, I have noticed and people have told us, and it's not anything we do, that Brian likes to be up in the action near the camera, and I tend to be back by the monitor. But other than the placement of where we are, I don't think there's any. It's
Nothing's
just
changed.
and we're all about prep.
Mm.
So all the questions, anything that needs to be ironed out anyway, or we have different thoughts on different things, whatever, we work all that stuff out before we're on there on the day. And then it's just, Brian will be like, and I'll be like, yep, I already know. And Brian will be like, yep, I already know. And it's one of those things. And it's just, we've been doing it for so long. It's just second nature.
When we were started making these little movies in the backyard and in our homes, it was Adam and I in a camera, and rarely did we have could we sucker one of our friends into being in the films with us. So it was just the two of us, and we would usually, we had the ability to kind of create titles, usually just writing it out, and it was
Mm.
always a Schnetto film, Schneider.
Netto, yeah.
So
There's
my
an
point is,
exclusive
like,
for you.
we've always shared
Terminator.
everything. It was never a matter of like, well, I'm going to direct today and you're going to direct today. We've always done it together, and it's
Mhm.
the only way we've ever done it. It's the only thing we know. So it's just second nature, and yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. Congrats and on the film,
Thank you
and
so much.
I can't wait to see the Richard prequel.
Thank you for some interesting questions. I
These
thought
were
it
great questions.
really, really good
This was really
question.
awesome. Thank
Oh,
you so
awesome.
much.
Well, thank you guys. And I mean, film made it easy to have questions come out of it.
I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
so
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. Have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye.